Every journey begins with a first step. For the first time walking into Spia's room at orientation, I didn't really know what stops would be along my future scholastic path. I remember sitting in, and James caught my attention when he mentioned the life-changing program, where we would actually go to a prison and have a class with real prisoners. When James mentioned that, I remember looking at my mom immediately and saying, "I want to do this, Mom. This actually really does sound amazing." And that was the first step to my journey. I remember it was the day of our first meeting at IREF, and I was so scared. Up until that day, I was never so excited to do something with school. I thought it was going to be the coolest thing ever, and I couldn't wait to tell all of my friends. When that day finally hit, I remember being so scared because I realized I was going to a real prison with real criminals that were there for serious crimes. For some reason, I thought of every movie and television show that was about prison. I thought about big scary guys with tattoos, with scars, and with attitudes. I thought about all the people dying in there. I thought about the sketchy guards that were helping team up with prisoners to create chaos inside. All of those nerves and fears went away right when I left the waiting room. I met an older man named John when we were headed to the chapel to talk to the residents. I had a nice little elevator conversation with him, and then he said he couldn't wait to see me inside. I was actually really confused at this moment, and then I walked in the doors and realized I just talked to a resident, and he was wearing blue jeans, Dr. Brand shoes, and nice long sleeve button up. I was immediately mind blown. It was definitely one of the strangest encounters I've ever had. Once we got seated and all the residents sat in a circle with us, and nerves that were left inside me, they came right out. It was so funny because I was only starting to get nervous because all the residents were so nervous to talk to me. It was like meeting new friends at a new high school. We were eager to know what the others had to say and what experiences they had in life, but we also knew there was a line that couldn't be crossed. After the first meeting, I had an idea of what to expect at IREF, and man was I wrong. The first real meeting at IREF was most definitely life-changing. It started with a resident named Greg. I didn't really know what to expect when they said he was giving a speech. When I heard he was speaking about the flaws in prison, I honestly thought, oh Lord, another person that's going to complain about the things they think they don't deserve. And I was wrong again. He was so passionate about the things and beliefs while being so serious about the problem occurring in prisons. It hit me really hard because some of the personal stories he gave us were really emotional. I remember one of his main arguments was about the lack of healthcare inside the prisons. He told me about a close friend that had died from a simple asthma attack. He said his friend died because the prison could not provide an inhaler. One small inhaler could have saved a man's life. One small inhaler could have gave a child one more day to go see his dad. It really made me emotional because I've had many awful asthma attacks in my recent years of sports. It really made me emotional because one simple inhaler could not be provided to this man. Over the course of the semester at IREF, the Toastmasters taught me a great deal of things on how to better myself at public speaking. One of the things I will never forget about IREF was waiting to hear what Sean would have to say after everyone's speeches, and when Barry was the grammarian advisor and would critique our word usage. Those two always had something to tell us to do better. They made me a better speaker by critiquing my classmates' speeches, because I knew I could do those same things better. They would tell us little things like, don't put your hands in your pocket, like, don't fidget with your hands because it's really distracting. Or when Barry would recommend words that we should and should not use. One of the greatest things I learned at IREF for public speaking was movement. I learned that movement was key. I got to witness an almost perfect example of movement during a speech. Just Johnny perfected the diamond movement every time he spoke, and I remember this because Mrs. Thewell always stressed it, that she would want us to do the same thing when we were speaking, and I knew if she said it, I needed to take it in. The Toastmasters helped me overcome many public speaking obstacles and become a better speaker in general. Toastmasters really tied in with Dr. Garcia's class and lecture as well. One thing that really popped out during Dr. G's class was when we talked about police brutality, mistreatment of prisoners in prisons, and minimum sentencing laws. These three things really pop out because they were three of the most popular topics that we discussed with the residents at IREF. I remember most specifically Greg going into exposing the mistreatment in prison, Brad and Johnny and Sean exposing their personal beliefs on why they believe the system and minimum sentencing laws are corrupt. Everything Dr. G stresses that is wrong, the residents deal with and talk about each time we were at IREF. In my lifetime, I'll probably never experience something again like IREF. From the first day I walked in to the last day I left, my personal beliefs and expectations towards somebody in the system have taken a complete U-turn. Coming from a small rural town, if you made mistakes and had to be put in the system, then you were looked down on. You were treated less than the people who hadn't done wrong and had mistakes. If you were to ask me on my opinion on criminals now, I wouldn't be so harsh on them. I would treat them as I would anyone else, because they are human too. It was an experience where I actually learned and taught somebody else how to improve on their lives and their public speaking abilities. Hopefully this past semester, I've been able to impact these great men in the same way they have been able to impact my life. They truly are proof that people do change.